The night was quiet on the outer edge of the human colony. A soft wind moved through the dark trees, carrying the smell of rain and burned metal. Eli Grant walked through the forest with a flashlight in one hand and his old rifle in the other. He was an engineer, not a soldier, but tonight something strange had fallen from the sky. And when something fell here, it was his job to find out why. The ground was scorched for miles, the air thick with smoke and static. He could still feel the heat from the crash site as he stepped closer. The trees were broken, their bark peeled away like paper. At the center of the impact crater, half buried in dirt and steam, lay a small silver pod. It hissed quietly, a soft blue glow leaking through a crack in its side. Eli stopped, his heartbeat loud in his ears. He raised his weapon, but then he heard it. A sound so small he thought it was the wind. It was a cry, weak and high-pitched, the sound of someone afraid. He lowered the rifle and climbed down into the crater. Inside the pod, something moved. When he pulled back a piece of metal, his light fell on a small figure curled up inside. It was a child, none or something like one. Its skin was pale with a faint shimmer, its eyes large and bright like liquid silver. The child was breathing fast, clutching a small metallic pendant to its chest. Eli froze, unsure what to do. The child looked at him, eyes wide, whispering words he couldn't understand. "Easy," he said quietly, setting down his gun. "I'm not here to hurt you." He reached out slowly. The child flinched but didn't run. Her arm was covered in small burns, her fingers trembling. Eli tore a strip from his sleeve and wrapped it gently around her wound. She winced, then whispered a word again, this time slower. "Saven," she said. Eli blinked, confused. "You mean, save?" The child nodded weakly. He looked around. The forest silent again. The crash smoke fading into fog. Whatever shot her down could be close. He picked her up carefully, surprised by how light she was. Her skin was cool, almost cold, and faintly glowing under the moonlight. She rested her head against his shoulder, whispering something soft. The pendant in her hand glowed once, then dimmed. Eli carried her through the forest, his boots sinking in the mud. The trees whispered above him, and the stars were hidden behind thick clouds. He had seen aliens before, traders, soldiers, wanderers, but never one this young and never one alone. The colony border lights flickered in the distance, but his communicator stayed silent. Something was jamming the signal. When he finally reached his cabin, he laid the child on the small bed near the heater. She stirred, blinking at the strange surroundings. "It's all right," he said gently. "You're safe here." She stared at him for a long moment before whispering, "Who, man?" Eli smiled slightly. "Yeah, that's right. Human." The word seemed to comfort her, and she closed her eyes. Falling into deep sleep, Eli sat by the window, staring at the night sky in the distance. Faint blue lights flickered in the clouds. Not lightning. He knew the look of search patterns. Whoever was looking for her wasn't far. He turned off the lights and checked his rifle again. The forest outside was silent, too silent. Hours passed. Eli couldn't sleep. Every few minutes, the girl murmured strange words in her sleep. Sometimes her skin flickered with light, forming patterns like moving stars. He tried to scan the pendant she carried, but his tools failed every time. It was as if the object was alive, reacting only to her. Near dawn, the radio crackled, static first, then a faint signal. An unknown language. Looping again and again, he boosted the frequency, and his translator caught fragments of the message. Retrieve. The air, alive. His heart skipped a beat. He turned to the bed, the child still sleeping peacefully. An heir, not a lost traveler, but someone important. The message repeated, louder this time. Return the child of the crown. Eli switched the radio off quickly. He looked at her again, unsure what kind of danger he had brought into his home. But when she stirred and opened her silver eyes, all he saw was fear. She whispered one word. The first he understood perfectly. Hide. The lights flickered outside. The hum of engines rolled through the forest like thunder. Eli grabbed his rifle, his pulse racing. Through the window, he saw a faint red glow between the trees. Not fire. Not human lights. They were here, the ones searching for her. He whispered to himself, "Whatever you are, kid. They're not getting you." He moved quickly, pulling open the floorboards beneath his cabin. A small maintenance tunnel led to the underground power lines. He lifted her gently and placed her inside. "Stay quiet," he said softly. "Don't make a sound." She grabbed his hand, her silver eyes wide with tears. "Eli," she said suddenly. He froze, How do you know my name? The girl didn't answer. She only pressed the glowing pendant into his palm and whispered, "Trust light." Before he could ask what she meant, a loud explosion shook the ground. The door blew open, flooding the cabin with red light. Shadows moved through the smoke. Tall, armored and silent, Eli ducked behind the console, gripping the pendant tight through the noise and flame. He heard a voice, calm and commanding. "We know she is here." Eli's heart pounded. He looked toward the tunnel, the faint blue glow flickering inside. And for the first time in his life, he realized this wasn't just another crash. It was the beginning of something much larger, something watching, waiting, and it had just found him. The night burned red above the forest. Eli crouched behind the broken wall of his cabin, clutching the rifle and the strange glowing pendant the child had given him. The air hummed with power, the kind that made every nerve in his body tighten. Through the smoke, he saw shadows moving, tall, armored, silent. They carried strange weapons that shimmered like glass. Each one scanned the ground, their helmets glowing faint blue. Their voices were deep and distorted, speaking in a language he had never heard. He stayed still, not breathing. The smallest sound could end him. Through the floorboards below, he could faintly see the girl's light flickering. She was hiding, just like he told her to, for a moment. He thought maybe they would leave. Then one of the soldiers turned sharply. Its mask glowed red as it knelt, touching the ground. A strange ripple spread through the soil, light crawling like veins. Eli's stomach twisted. They were tracking her through energy. Not footprints, he had seconds, maybe less. He reached into his pocket and pressed the pendant's center. It flared, bright blue, and suddenly all the scanners went dark. The aliens looked around, confused, their devices flickering. The lights on their suits dimmed as if something drained them. Eli took his chance. He grabbed a smoke canister from his belt and threw it. The cabin filled with black haze and static sparks. He ran through the fog, through the trees, the air heavy with ash and cold light. Branches cut his face, roots pulled at his boots. But he didn't stop behind him. The sound of the aliens' engines roared, silent one moment, screaming the next. They were fast, too fast. Every step he took. They closed the distance. He dove into a trench formed by old mining equipment and pulled the pendant again. It pulsed twice, and the forest around him flickered. For a split second he saw it, blue lines running through the ground, connecting everything. It was like the world itself was alive and listening. Then the light vanished, leaving him in the dark. The aliens passed by above, scanning. Their searchlights cut across the trench, but didn't find him. He stayed still until the sound faded. When he crawled out, his hands were shaking. He looked toward the horizon and froze. A massive ship hung above the clouds, silent, black, and wide enough to block the stars. No engines, no sound, just presence. It was watching. He whispered under his breath, "Dear God." But deep inside he knew this wasn't a god. This was something made by them for her. Back at the cabin, the little girl crawled out from under the floor. Her small hands trembled as she looked around. The air was filled with faint static, voices, whispers. She reached out and touched one of the fallen alien scanners. It sparked, then showed her a symbol, her own face, surrounded by alien letters, her eyes filled with tears. She whispered in her soft voice, "They found us." Eli returned just before dawn, exhausted and covered in dirt. The child ran to him, clutching his jacket. "It's okay," he said quietly. "I'm here." But she shook her head, eyes wide. "No safe," she said. "They follow light," Eli frowned. "Light?" She pointed at the sky. The clouds were glowing, lines of light spiraling slowly. He looked through his binoculars and froze. They weren't clouds, and they were ships, hundreds of them, all forming a circle above Earth's atmosphere. They weren't landing, they were surrounding. He turned off every power source in his cabin. Even the generator. The silence was heavy, the kind that makes you feel watched. He tried to call the colony, but the communicator only returned static. When he turned the dial again, the static changed. It wasn't random anymore, it was... "Words return the air," it whispered. "Return the child or the sky will burn." Eli stared at the radio, his heart pounding. "This isn't just a search," he muttered. "It's an invasion." The child tugged at his sleeve. She spoke softly, her voice trembling. "They not my family." He turned to her slowly. "What do you mean?" Her silver eyes glowed faintly. "They make children for mind, not for love," she said. "They take us, put..." Old ones inside. Eli felt cold run through his veins. He understood just enough. Her people used their young as vessels. The heir wasn't royal, she was a container. A living body meant to carry something ancient, something powerful. He knelt down and looked at her closely. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. The child blinked, tears shining like mercury. "Help me stay me," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "Then we fight outside." Thunder rolled, not from the sky, but from orbit. The massive ship above shifted, its hull glowing red like a rising sun. From the distance, streaks of light began to fall, probes descending through the clouds. The ground shook. Eli grabbed the pendant, feeling it pulse in rhythm with the child's heartbeat. It connected to her, to the energy in her blood. When he pressed it again, it flashed bright blue, and for a moment, every alien signal went silent. The child looked up in awe. "You strong," she said softly. Eli smiled faintly. "No, kid," he said. "I just got lucky." But deep inside, he knew this was no luck. The pendant was choosing him, reacting to him as if it recognized something in his DNA. The forest lights faded. The world went quiet again. But in the distance, a low hum rose. It wasn't thunder. It was the sound of something opening in the sky. A gate, through it, more ships began to appear. Black silhouettes against red clouds, Eli whispered. "They're not stopping." He looked at the child. She held his hand tighter and said one word: "Run." By the third day, the forest had gone silent. No birds, no wind, no sound. Only the faint hum of engines hidden behind the clouds. Eli stood outside his cabin, staring at the sky. The air smelled of metal and ozone, heavy with something unnatural. The child stood beside him, clutching his arm, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "They are here," she whispered. Eli didn't answer. He could feel it too, the pressure in the air, the electricity crawling over his skin. A low vibration rolled through the ground. Leaves trembled, the soil cracked, and then from the mist, a ship descended. It made no sound, no flame, no dust. It simply appeared in a dark shape of perfect metal, hovering inches above the earth. Its surface shifted like liquid glass, changing form with each flicker of light. The child backed away, shaking her head. "No safe," she whispered, "not family." Eli raised his rifle, but his hands were trembling. He knew the weapon wouldn't matter. From the ship's side, a door opened. A bright white light spilled out and silhouettes stepped through. 5 figures, tall and graceful, their armor smooth as stone. Their eyes glowed the same silver as the girl's. But their faces were calm, emotionless, ancient. One of them, a woman, stood in front, her voice soft but powerful. "Human," she said. "We come for the child." Eli didn't move. He could feel the child gripping his coat tighter, hiding behind him. "She's not going anywhere," he said quietly. The alien woman tilted her head, studying him. "You protect what you don't understand," she said. "That makes you dangerous." Eli took a step forward. "She's scared," he said. "You hurt her." The woman's expression didn't change. "She is not hurt," she said. "She is broken, and we must fix her." The words made Eli's stomach twist. He looked back at the girl, who shook her head violently. "No fix," she whispered. "They take mind. They take soul." The alien stepped closer. One raised a hand, a sphere of light forming in its palm. It wasn't a weapon, it was a scanner. The glow swept across Eli, then the girl. The sphere changed color, flashing red. "Confirmed," said one of the soldiers. "She carries the echo." Eli frowned. "The echo?" The leader turned her glowing eyes toward him. "You would not understand," she said. "Your kind is forgotten." Eli clenched his jaw. "Try me." For the first time, the alien hesitated. She looked at the child, then back at him. "The echo is memory," she said slowly. "A living code passed from the first ones, our creators." She paused, her voice lowering. "Every generation, one child is chosen to hold it, but this one..." She rejected it. The child stepped out from behind Eli, her small fists clenched. "They lie," she said, her voice trembling but strong. "I not reject. I free." The alien soldiers turned sharply, their armor humming. The leader's eyes narrowed. "You were not meant to choose," she said coldly. "You are a vessel, nothing more." Eli's anger flared. "She's a person, not a machine," he said. The alien's gaze hardened. "Then you have already doomed her." The ground trembled again, the ship humming louder, the trees bent under invisible pressure. Eli lifted his weapon, but before he could aim, a burst of energy rippled from the child. A wave of blue light spread in every direction. The aliens staggered back, their armor crackling with static. The ship's lights flickered, the engines groaned. The child's eyes glowed brighter, her voice echoing through the air. "Stop hurting," she cried. "I am not yours." Her words seemed to shake the air itself. The alien leader tried to move forward, but her steps faltered. Her armor began to fracture like glass, the silver cracks spreading across her chest. Eli grabbed the girl's shoulders, shouting, "Stop! You'll kill yourself!" The light faded, leaving only silence and smoke. The aliens fell to their knees, gasping as their systems rebooted. The leader stood again, weaker now, her expression changed. "You do not understand what you've done," she said softly. "You awakened it," Eli frowned. "Awakened what?" She looked up at the sky, her voice trembling. "The echo. It remembers everything." Eli turned to the girl, who looked frightened and pale. Her glow dimmed, her small hands shaking. "Eli," she whispered, "something is coming." Before he could ask what, the air above them split open. A beam of blue light cut through the clouds. Reaching from orbit to the ground inside it, a massive shape began to descend. Not a ship, something older, darker, alive. The alien leader looked at the beam and whispered in her own language. "It's not supposed to wake." The soldiers backed away, their armor flickering. The child clutched Eli's hand, tears in her eyes. "It wake because me," she said softly. I touched old memory. Eli felt the pendant in his pocket pulsing again, the same rhythm as her heartbeat. He pulled it out. It was glowing brighter than ever. The alien leader stared at it, her eyes widening. "That symbol," she said. "Where did you get that?" Eli hesitated. "She gave it to me." The alien took a slow step back, her voice shaking for the first time. "Then you're already part of it." Eli looked up at the sky. The beam was expanding, forming a ring. A deep sound rolled through the air. Low and endless, it wasn't thunder. It was a voice. Distant and ancient. "The echo has awakened," it said. "All that was forgotten will return." The aliens fell to their knees. Covering their heads, the child closed her eyes. Whispering something in her language, Eli could feel the air growing heavy. He didn't know what the echo was, but he knew it was alive. And now, it knew him. The sky above the forest had turned into fire. A great blue ring burned across the clouds, pulsing with sound instead of light. Eli stood frozen, his heart pounding beside him. The alien child clutched his arm, her silver eyes glowing with tears. And the alien leader, once proud, now trembling, whispered words that chilled the air. "The echo remembers." The ground beneath them cracked. Trees bent, birds vanished into the storm. It wasn't just the sky changing. It was the world itself. Energy flowed through the soil, ancient symbols glowing faintly under the dirt. Eli stepped back, his boots lighting with blue fire for an instant. "What is this?" he shouted, but his voice was swallowed by the hum. The alien leader turned to him, her expression filled with fear and awe. "This world is one of the anchors," she said. "One of the places where the first ones left their memory." Eli frowned. "First ones?" She nodded slowly. "They built our species, they built yours, and when they vanished, they left their code behind. A living memory. We called it the echo." Her voice shook. "But the humans, you forgot." Eli stared at her in disbelief. "You're saying my species is part of yours?" The alien's silver eyes met his. "Not part," she said softly. "Origin." Lightning flashed through the blue sky. Eli felt dizzy, as if the world itself had tilted. "You mean humans created you?" he asked. "No," she said. "Something through you did." Her voice trembled as she looked at the child. "The first ones chose this bloodline to carry memory, and it has awakened again through her." The child's small voice broke through the thunder. "I not want power," she said. "I want to be free." The alien leader nodded slowly. "I know, child, but freedom has a price." Suddenly the ground split open beneath them. Eli grabbed the girl before she fell. Blue light burst from the crack, not heat, not plasma, but data made visible. It streamed into the air like rivers of glowing symbols wrapping around trees, stones, and sky. Eli looked down into the rift and saw something moving below. It wasn't rock, and it was metal, endless and ancient. A structure buried deep under the forest. Humming like a sleeping giant. "What is that?" he whispered. The alien leader looked down with tears in her eyes. The heart of the Echo, she said. The first seed that connects every species made by the old ones. Eli looked at her, confused. Why is it waking now? She turned her gaze toward the child. Because she touched a forbidden code, and you helped her survive it. The child shook her head. No, she whispered. It called me first. Her voice was small, trembling. It said I was not vessel, I was voice. Eli's grip on her tightened. What does that mean? But before anyone could answer, the air shimmered, and another ship appeared overhead. It was larger than the first, darker, its presence crushing. The alien soldiers fell to their knees instantly. The High Warden, one whispered in terror. From the massive ship, a beam of white light shot down, and within it, a figure descended, taller, more regal. Its armor alive with shifting patterns. The air itself seemed to bow. The alien leader looked down. Run, she whispered. That is not one of us. The child clung to Eli, whispering, It come for me. Eli lifted his rifle. Though he knew it meant nothing, the High Warden stepped onto the ground, the light bending around him like gravity. He looked at Eli first, then the child, his voice deep and calm. You should not exist, Eli shouted. Who are you? The figure's gaze turned toward him. Glowing with power, the keeper of silence, he said. Guardian of the Echo, destroyer of corruption. The alien leader fell to one knee. Warden, she is not corruption. She is renewal. He looked at her coldly. There is no renewal in chaos. He raised his hand, light gathering around his palm. The ground trembled, energy building like a storm. The child screamed, and her glow flared brighter than before. Eli threw himself in front of her, the pendant burning against his chest. A blast of light erupted. For a moment the world vanished. When the smoke cleared, Eli was still standing, surrounded by a blue shield that pulsed from the pendant. The High Warden stared at him in disbelief. That energy belongs to the Founders, he said slowly. Eli looked down. His veins glowed faint blue under his skin, the same as the child's. What's happening to me? He gasped. The alien leader's voice trembled. You are connected now, bonded to the Echo. The child looked up at him. See? She said softly. You part of light. The Warden's tone darkened. This connection will spread, and when it does, your kind will remember everything we tried to erase. Eli took a step forward, his voice steady. Maybe that's the point. The Warden hesitated, and for the first time, he seemed unsure. The ground below them pulsed again. Brighter this time, the buried structure began to rise. Breaking through soil and stone, a massive spire of alien metal, etched with symbols in both languages, human and Virac. The blue light reached the clouds. The Echo was waking. The child looked at Eli and whispered, It remember us all. The alien leader smiled faintly, her silver eyes soft with tears. Then history will no longer belong to conquerors, she said. Eli looked up as the sky split open, blue energy connecting Earth to the stars. He realized this was no war, it was revelation. The truth buried for ages was finally rising. But somewhere above, the Warden spoke again, his voice echoing like thunder. You have awakened what should sleep. The universe will tremble again. Eli turned to the girl. Then let it tremble, he said, and together, they faced the rising storm of light, the past, the present, and the forgotten truth merging into one. The silence of the galaxy was breaking, and humanity's memory had just begun to wake. The world shook beneath their feet. The sky was no longer blue. It burned with white and silver light. Alive and pulsing, the great spire rose higher from the earth, carving its way through the clouds around it. The forest bent like waves under wind, every leaf glowing with the rhythm of the planet's heartbeat. Eli stood at the center of it all, his chest blazing with light. The pendant fused into his skin. Beside him, the alien child held his hand tightly, her small fingers trembling but her eyes calm. And before them, the High Warden stood frozen in awe. This cannot be, he whispered. The Echo cannot merge with a mortal. But it was happening. The air rippled like water and a voice filled the sky. Ancient, fast, not human, not alien. We remember, it said. The voice carried across mountains, oceans, and into the stars. Every listening device on Earth, every alien ship in orbit, every network and signal channel began to broadcast the same pulse, the same voice. The Echo had awakened. Eli felt it in his bones. Memories that weren't his. Lives that weren't lived by him. He saw flashes of other worlds, ancient ones. A civilization that had shaped both human and alien kind. He saw them rise, fall, and vanish into silence, leaving their last creation, memory itself, to carry their will. The echo. It was not a weapon, it was a seed. The child looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "It speak," she said softly. "It remember us." Eli's voice trembled. "What does it want?" She listened for a moment, then smiled faintly. "It not want. It choose above them." The warden raised his hand, light surging around him. "You don't understand," he said. "If the echo spreads again, no empire will stand. Every lie, every erased truth will rise." Eli stepped forward, his voice firm. "Maybe that's exactly what the universe needs." The warden hesitated. His armor cracked, the light inside flickering between red and blue. He looked at the child, the vessel, and for the first time, his voice softened. "Little one," he said, "do you know what happens when truth wakes?" She nodded slowly. "It changed everything," and with that, she raised her small hand toward the sky. The spire answered. A beam of pure light shot upward. It pierced the clouds, cutting through space in orbit. Alien ships were blinded, their scanners overwhelmed, but the voice of the echo filled their minds. "You are all children of the same dawn. You forgot unity, but we did not forget you." Planets across the sector lit up with the same blue glow, the message spreading like fire, like memory rekindled after a long, dark age. Eli could see the stars changing, constellations shifting, on a map redrawn, a past restored. He heard 1,000 voices whispering through him, not words, but feelings, love, grief, hope, fear, everything that made creation alive. The warden fell to his knees. "The cycle restarts," he murmured. The silence is over, his armor dimmed, the energy inside him fading like smoke in the wind. He looked up one last time and whispered, "Perhaps the galaxy was always meant to hear again." Then his body dissolved into light, merging with the storm above. The child stumbled, her glow fading. Eli caught her before she fell. She looked weak, her voice barely a whisper. "Echo finish, Eli," she said. "Now peace begin." He shook his head, tears in his eyes. "You can't go, kid. You did it. You saved them." She smiled faintly. "I free. Now all free." Her body shimmered, breaking into small streams of blue particles that rose into the air like dust and stars. Eli reached out, his hand passing through light that felt warm and alive. Her voice echoed once more, soft as wind. "Trust light." The beam faded, the sky slowly cleared. The spire sank back into the earth, leaving only silence. Real silence this time. Not fear, not control, just peace. Days later, the alien fleet still hovered above Earth. But none fired, none invaded, they simply watched, waiting for orders that would never come. Their leaders were gone, their purpose rewritten. The echo had rewritten them all. On the ground, Eli walked through the forest. Now green again and quiet, he wore the pendant still, though it no longer glowed. Sometimes when the wind moved through the trees, he could swear he heard a small laugh, soft, childlike, and sometimes when he looked up at the stars, he saw a faint flicker of blue among them, a sign that the echo still watched, still remembered. Humanity rebuilt. The aliens withdrew, but not in fear, in respect. For the first time in history, the galaxy shared one memory. No empire, no division, no silence. Just connection, and somewhere deep within the quiet earth, beneath the soil and stone, the spire's light pulsed once more, not as warning, but as promise. "When darkness comes again," it whispered. "Remember who you are." Eli closed his eyes. Feeling the wind, he smiled faintly and whispered back, "We will." And as the sun rose over the horizon, the stars above shimmered like they were alive. For the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy remembered what it meant to feel human again.